So starting with Olga, you're first on my screen.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm a developer from St. Petersburg, Russia. I joined community global community, I mean, like a year ago. And since I'm very glad and I like WordPress even more.
Great. Shanta, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shanta. I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I was on the organizing team for the last 5 WordCamps here. I've been on some for Milwaukee, so doing that remotely was kind of an interesting one. I've attended and spoken at more than 40 WordCamps worldwide, and I've actually been to WordCamp Mumbai myself. Right now, I'm the president and CEO of Namara Technologies, Inc., and our WordCamp was supposed to be a couple of weekends ago. So there's discussion going up here north of the border to see whether or not we want to group together and do one as a whole, or whether we're still going to do them independently. But I think it's a lot of it is going to be involved around how much work there is involved, and see if we can just share the workload. Great to be here.
Cool. Amanda.
Hi, I am Amanda, as Megan said. I'm one of the organizers for WordCamp Kent the past 2 years. I am a digital marketer, and so I use WordPress mostly from that side. And I think that's about it.
David.
Hello, everyone. I'm a developer from Northeast Ohio. I've been part of the WordCamp Kent organizer team for the last 3 years. This year, I actually was the lead organizer for this year's camp. I also run the Northeast Ohio WordPress Meetup with Megan.
Marianne.
Hi, I'm Marianne Reisig. I'm from Rochester, New York, and I'm one of the organizers for WordCamp Rochester. We are in the process of organizing for October.
And Trevor from the same team.
Yeah, hi. I'm also, like you said, from Rochester. We're trying to put together our talk that's at the beginning of October. I'm just here to grab some information and learn a little bit. I'm a physics professor from Finger Lakes Community College, just outside of town. I have a couple of websites that I do on my own. I've been doing websites for about 6 years now, I think it is. I have done local WordCamps here in Buffalo. Now I'm starting to spread out.
Cool. And sorry if I mispronounced your name, Dhruv. You're muted. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm digital consultant. Yeah, that's it. Oh,
What team
sorry?
are you with?
Hey guys, my name is Dhruv Pandya. I am from Adrian, Michigan. Last year I was a lead organizer of WordCamp Vadodara, and I am digital consultant. Yeah.
Cool. A nice background. I like it. Ricardo.
This Ricardo? There are no other Ricardos. Okay, hi everyone. As you said, my name is Ricardo. I'm from Colombia, but I live in Washington for the last 8 years. I think I've been helping some WordCamps, especially here. Now that it was online a little bit on the one in Spain 6 weeks ago, I pretended that I was helping you guys in Kent. And now I met some people who want to organize one in Colombia for the first time. And the last weekend I was talking to some people from Central America. So now I think I need to convince them to do a Latin American one instead of just one in Colombia. And that's why I'm here. And because Olga invited me today. So that's why.
Cool. And Katharina?
Hi, I'm Catarina. I'm from Rio, Brazil. But since we are very close to São Paulo, our biggest city of the country, and my boyfriend lives there, I was a volunteer in WordCamp São Paulo last year. And this year we're having one online. So I'm mostly here to learn. I joined the organizing team recently, and I think it's in the end of July, our event.
Awesome. Rahul?
Hi guys. I'm a digital marketer and a business consultant. I'm also an active contributor for the local WordPress community. I'm trying to contribute in marketing channel recently started. Apart from that, I'm one of the team rep from WPTV.
Courtney?
Hello, I'm Courtney and in Portland, Oregon. I am also a contributor to the community team. Working pretty deeply right now on adapting the WordCamp program. So learning from other online WordCamps like WordCamp Kent will help us inform how we're going to adapt the WordCamp program moving forward. So I'm here to learn.
Awesome. And Abby?
Hi guys, Abby Buzan here. I'm a Northeast Ohio native. I've been a presenter at WordCamp Kent for the last 2 years. This WordCamp Kent was my first digital WordCamp, let alone digital anything. So it was very interesting. I have not been an organizer in any fashion yet. I have a little guy who's about to be starting kindergarten, so hopefully I'll have a little extra time and might be able to be an organizer in the upcoming years.
That's very exciting to all of us. I know David, Amanda, and I are just like doing cartwheels. You just can't see them because the cartwheels are in our heads. So great way to break that news to us. Love it. Like I said at the beginning when people were kind of joining in, I have some stats pulled together. There's some questions I really wish we would have had on our attendee form, or the ticket form, that I would probably recommend for future WordCamp organizers. It actually got brought up because Joe from Santa Clarita was asking if we had any statistics on the gender of the people attending and the age and location and things like that. That probably would have been helpful to have all of the online camps gathering more information like that as opposed to previous years, because really the average attendee is a little different for online. But I do have the little bit of statistics that we were able to pull together that I'll share. Just a moment. All right. And actually, I should have put this screen over here. And there's a guinea pig. Enjoy. So we're going to share a little bit about just what we found for WordCamp Kent specifically, but obviously every camp is different and unique, especially because we're starting to get to the point where there's enough turnaround time to pivot to online, whereas some of the earlier camps only had, Santa Clarita only had 2 weeks to really turn it around, and they were coming from a previously canceled event, which is a little different than our situation. So obviously we would have had more exposure because we had it out there for longer. But let's get into the, maybe, why is it not letting me? I have to advance the slides on that page, that's why. Okay, so for the online only stats, these would be the stats that you can only get from an online event and cannot really get easily from in person unless you're tracking people walking in and out of the rooms. The stream statistics, we had on a low end 555 views of a stream. Now that's across like an entire day. And actually I should probably put my little, I'll put my little face over there for everyone for the recording. So you can see my gesticulations. But yeah, so typically we were between 500 and like 1400 views. We have day one in 2 different tracks broken down here, and then day 2 we saw a drop off, which is pretty typical for a 2-day WordCamp. One day is probably easier to pull off for that reason, and obviously going to be cheaper, so something to keep in mind. And we had 1,400 tickets claimed this year, which, just for point of comparison, we're a smaller camp. We're even a little bit smaller than Santa Clarita in terms of typical ticket sales. So like just last year, we only had 115. So it's obviously a giant spike, mostly due to it being free and online and accessible. And then like contact wise and work like leading up to the event, I looked at our feedback on our site and found that we had 235 contact requests as opposed to previous years only being in double digits. So that was a bit more of a struggle to manage all of those. And we actually had some issues with the emails not coming through to us, which on a small organizing team can be hard to go back. Actually, David devoted a lot of time to going back and replying to a bunch of messages that we had missed for like months. So that was much appreciated. He really put in the hard work on that one. And what was a little odd to me was there were only 4 spam ones that came through this year. So I don't know if something got a little tighter on the WordCamp site end, but we didn't really see like a flood of more spam this year than previous years. We actually saw less, which was surprising to me. This one I've mentioned in previous places that I've kind of talked about, the WordCamp Kent findings. One of the challenges we had was having much more accessibility requests to reply to. I would recommend having a dedicated volunteer for this, or if you had a dedicated volunteer for like all points of general communication through the contact forms and accessibility requests, that would probably be enough. But you want to make sure you have someone focused on it, especially for the larger ones, like for WordCamp US. Obviously, they're gonna get much more requests. And WordCamp Europe, I assume, got a lot more requests than the standard camps. And now here we get into a little bit of the attendee stats that I was able to pull up. That's not ideal either. I'll just hide the video. So this is the information that we do gather, which is where are you coming from? And then the other one that I'll show in a second is what is your experience level with WordPress? So you can see, obviously the other is gonna spike when you're online because people can attend from anywhere. And we saw that even this was really reflected in our attendees. And to a certain extent in our speaker requests. We did still have mostly local speakers, but we had a couple that were not local. And then I took this stat and I just removed the other category to see the trend in our actual local area, being our neighboring states and different regions in Ohio, because I thought it was valuable to look at it a different way and to kind of remove the other outlier, because it's to be expected with online. So this was just kind of more general for WordCamp Kent, being able to look and see, oh, we were kind of moving in this regional direction anyways. You know, you can see Michigan had kind of increased, and other areas in Ohio were increasing too, and Pennsylvania had actually been increasing already. So I thought that was interesting to just look at like our regional area and just take the other outlier out entirely. But I would recommend getting a little more specific with location if you have that question in your ticket survey and you're doing or in your ticket form. and you're doing an online WordCamp, you should probably have something less general than other. Like maybe a country would be nice. And then experience level, really what's interesting is I remember from just being at doing opening remarks, we always ask like where anyone who this is their first WordCamp, which I wish we would have asked that in the ticket form too, because that's something we normally would ask at an in-person event, and we would kind of gauge, oh, this is half of the people's first WordCamp. But this kind of accomplishes the same thing, but not really, because we know there's a lot of folks that are using WordPress and they're not involved in the community. So probably having a question like that would have been beneficial, because that's something we would have gotten with in-person data-wise that we weren't really able to get this year. But we are seeing that this greater than 5 years initially in 2018 was actually pretty large, because I would not have anticipated that. This is my first time even looking at the 2018 stats in this manner, so that was kind of interesting to me. But we did see 31% are using less than a year, and that's likely because we have a WordPress 101 track that kind of has gained a little bit of momentum, and I think people recommend it to others. So I'm pretty sure that's where that would have come from. And then this is the fun one that I'm glad my video is not showing now so I can just cry, though it's probably showing for all of you. Normally we run a pretty tight budget, but this year with the cost of Blaze was significantly different. This is just a high level overview, just to give an idea of what our ticket revenue would have been in was in previous years. And then the local sponsorships were especially difficult for being real early into the COVID pandemic, because like for example, I reached out to the small businesses and I offered to give them partial or full refunds to like put them down one level from where they initially started. So by extending that offer to them, 2 of them took us up on it, and you know, that reflects in what we were able to get for local sponsorships. But I'm still gonna try to squeeze some money out of people, because that's just what I like to do. And then just real quick, I was gonna share some of the findings that Amanda had, and then we can just get into like a general question and answer and discussion. So Amanda made this really awesome post-event survey, and then she kind of compiled it into some basic pieces. So I was actually surprised that most found it easy to navigate from the organizer side. I think all of you that are organizers know that you're acutely aware during the event of everything that's going wrong. And we were very acutely aware of the disconnect between Slack and we had our Slack set up so that you have to like request us to send you an invite. And there's that hurdle there, which Shanta helped us with after the fact. So thank you for the tip. And then, you know, you also have the chat that's happening in YouTube, which you have to remember to embed that separately, which it is a Gutenberg block, which is cool. But you have to embed the chat onto the page, which was something that we didn't get like right off the bat. And so we had to add it in after the fact. So, but it was really reassuring to see that people thought it was easy to navigate and easy to follow. But one thing that they mentioned was that they would have liked to know more of what to expect. And Amanda did this awesome what to expect post, but we didn't include like what it will look like. And I think that would have made all the difference, and people would have been a little less anxious going in if they could just see, you know, similar to when you're working with a client, showing them a mock-up instead of just describing it to them. There's a huge difference there. And if you could do a mock-up and show it in advance to attendees, just have it in your what to expect post, that would probably be a good way to just like reduce your contact requests and ease people's anxieties before the event.
Can I make one comment about that too?
Yeah.
To be fair, we didn't put out that what to expect post until the day before. So the other thing could have been just the timing of that.
Sorry,
you
I'm
know,
trying to give
getting
you
that out
credit for a good
beforehand.
job.
Well, up until that point, there was still a lot up in the air. So, and then the other thing, you know, that I thought maybe we could have done was just have like what would be on the site like day of, maybe possibly up, you know, a couple days before, and just say, hey, you can go here and check it out and see how it's going to work. But like really no one could have done that until the morning of. So
put a fake YouTube video in a fake comment section up there.
Yeah, or just something.
Someone else's video for testing purposes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, actually, the thing of the YouTube, actually in the future, we could combine what to expect and actually record a video and post it on the track channel, so that when people check it out the day before, they could see basically what the video is going to look like.
Here's David with the big brain. Yeah, that would make sense.
So just a quick question though, if we register for the event, are we automatically added to a newsletter mailing list? Because I registered a few days before, I don't remember getting the post at all. I could be wrong.
No.
So if it's just posted to the website, how does anybody even know that it's there?
Yeah, they would have had to subscribe to the blog. Actually, I feel like that's really good feedback for the WordCamp sites in general.
No, I'm pretty sure the day before, the same day, the day before, everyone who had a ticket, we also sent out an email.
Okay, I could be wrong.
Like what? Yeah, I mean, it's one of those kind of generic. Yeah.
Okay.
Typically with the blog posts, if they sign up and get a ticket, they're not automatically subscribed to the blog. But yeah, Amanda did send an email out with the link to the blog post for that one specifically.
Okay. Thanks.
But yeah, I would just recommend doing that if at all possible.
More than 24 hours in advance.
More than 24 hours, yeah.
Probably good advice. And then Amanda actually included this question. I'll zoom in a little bit because it's kind of tiny here, but this one, I don't know if anyone else is really thrown off by that 32.6%. I was really surprised by that though, so I thought it was worth sharing with this group, that 32% of the people that responded. Now we only had 46 responses, so it's a very small sample size, but I was really surprised at how big that chunk is that would just primarily attend WordCamp online. And I guess it would have been cool if we had like a follow-up question about, well, would you pay for an online? Because as we move out of the pandemic and into like just having normal WordCamps again, it would be interesting to get more data on if people would like actually pay for an online event, or what that would even look like if they would pay for it. I know that's something we talk about at our work with conferences in the travel industry, and we talk about, well, how much can you really charge for online versus in person? So it's probably worth investigating a little further and collaborating on more ideas about the future of WordCamps in that regard.
Can I just say one quick thing about that is that as of now, I probably would have attended normally without COVID 2 WordCamps in person, both of which unfortunately were either delayed or canceled. However, on the flip side, I've attended 3 WordCamps that I would not have otherwise even had on my radar. Yeah. So I'm getting to attend more because I don't have to travel as far, and I'm sure this is not news to any of you, but some that weren't even on my radar.
Yeah, I can say I was not surprised by the almost 50% saying that they would attempt both. That wasn't really too surprising to me, because I'm the same way. Sometimes I just don't want to be in a group of 150 people. So I would just rather attend from home because I just don't feel like being around that many people. And I know like with the online, having a ton of events online, especially like we just put 2 back-to-back meetups this week, Monday and today. It can be a little exhausting to attend a ton of stuff online, just like it can be exhausting to attend a ton of stuff in person. So knowing that people are willing to do this like mix between having online and having in person is gives you a little bit of hope, especially when you don't really have a choice to have it online. It's nice to know that people are like willing and possibly even like it better than in person, which is scary but exciting at the same time.
There are actually some comments that people. Whoa, geez. Okay, sorry, I just made my screen.
Yeah, sorry, I was done sharing my screen.
Oh no. There are actually some comments that people said it was easier for them to like focus with an online event, which I thought was interesting. You know, because I feel like when you're in a room, it's like you're not doing other stuff, but when you're at home learning, like you can do a bunch of other stuff and no one's really gonna know. But I don't know. I think maybe the people that want to be there online are like, I'm here and I'm gonna focus. So
sorry, Amanda, do you mean that they were focused more on whatever else it was they were doing, or they were more focused on the talk?
That they were more focused on, they said that they were able to learn like really well through the format, like through the online format. I don't know if it might not have been necessarily that it was better than in person, but they said that they, were pleasantly surprised by how, easy it was for them to focus, I guess.
Or maybe because they're not moving around from room to room. Like I find sometimes going from one track to another, then I've got to find somewhere to sit. And then can I use my laptop? Can I not use my laptop? When I was at home, I had multiple screens running. Right. So for me, that was a nice thing to have. But going back to what you were saying about in person, I will do the 150 people over online every time. But then, I'm a meetup junkie. So what can I say? That's just me.
I also think the online side, at least for me, like with WordCamp Europe, having the more control over the actual session, being able to pause it and rewind it, and allows you to focus more on the content. Because the fact that you don't do that time constraint where it's 45 minutes and you have to move on, you actually sort of sit there and focus, rewind on the content.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I paused a lot because in real-time events, I have to write down and then I lose track and I get nervous, and pausing really helped.
Yeah, I wonder if part of it is you can kind of get deeper into topics too. Like if you were watching the WordPress 101 and you're like, he maybe says something that is upcoming in a future one, you'd be able to be like, oh, let me go look into that right now. And you can kind of like hone in on a specific aspect of the whole thing. Even, like if someone mentions like a resource, I remember Lee Drozak, she gave her talk on working from anywhere, and I felt the inkling to want to like go look into some of the things she was talking about, because she was talking about like working from campsites and RVing, and I was like itching to, even though I was emceeing her, I was like itching to go like look at people's RVing lifestyle and go buy myself an RV that I can't afford. Are there any questions that people have about the organizer side or the volunteer side that we can answer?
I want to add a couple of things like post-COVID, post-COVID became a pandemic. So I was just communicating with, a couple of, organizers as well as a lot of attendees. So few interesting thing that I came up as a couple of people, they actually find the online WordCamp and Meetup interesting. Whereas on the other hand, like not to forget that WordCamps are regional because the aim is to grow the local community. The aim is to, enrich the local community. Now, when it goes to online, it's better that you have more people. But, somehow I feel the locals, might get neglected. That is one perception that I got after talking with a lot of people. Another thing that I think uh, 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 that is important is like, while there are talks, it might happen that someone speaking in a different accent, someone speaking is fast, someone speaking slowly. So you always have that option to pause and take your time and then go back. And sometimes what happen is like, people talk about some terminologies which we don't understand, might happen. So in that case, if it's online, you always have the scope to cross reference and check out. But offline, again, like, in terms of networking or in kind, because I personally go to WordCamps mostly to meet friend. Hope I'm not offending anyone, but it's all about meeting new friends and all. So, and when it comes to online and offline, I remember that I attended more session in WordCamp Kent and WordCamp Europe than if I accumulate all the WordCamps, like how many talks I have actually attended. So again, like in online you have less distraction compared to offline. Like in offline you have friends who will call you up, or maybe you would be running around the sponsor booth, or maybe you would be talking with one of the sponsors or organizers. There are a lot of distractions. So in terms of education, online is good. And regarding like with the organizers, what we are planning is like we might, like for Kolkata WordCamp, like what we are planning is we might come up with two formats of meetup. One is online and one is offline. Like obviously when we can host an offline meetup, and maybe for WordCamps, like maybe we can have like local WordCamp, and maybe one regional WordCamp that can be found as an online version. Might be like say for example WordCamp India can be an online version, or maybe like WordCamp US is already like again that's a different thing altogether. But my idea is that maybe we can have couple of WordCamps that are online. Maybe if the like if there is a lot of WordCamps happening, maybe some of the WordCamps can actually go online. Because I also received a quite a good feedback about this online WordCamps, because people, they can attend. And I think you also mentioned at the very beginning about if we go online, then we whether we can charge an entry fee or a ticket fee. If you ask me, my personal opinion is that we should charge at least a small token amount. Let it be $5 or $10, but that actually covers the cost to some extent. Because now what we have seen is like central and sponsors, it's the cost is coming more and more, and gradually over time the cost will go up. And maybe if we can keep a balance between the all the expense and whatever we are spending on per person cost, then that wouldn't be a problem. And people who are attending, like they would be end up in spending more money. So rather, like if we keep an entry bracket of $5, which is very affordable, I think that could have been a better. Maybe like you got 100 online attendees, then that becomes $5,000. Sorry, $500. If $5,000. So that's a good way to cover up the cost. And also like if you have money remaining, maybe that can be carried forward to another WordCamp, so they would have less pressure of collecting that sponsorship amount. So just like this is what I think after speaking with a couple of peoples in and around my community.
So I did do the numbers because I'm a physicist. If you had charged $5, you would have made 7,265, and it looks like your expenses were 7,216. So maybe not all 1,000 people or 1,400 people would have bought tickets, but it would have come much closer. And that's without any of your other income sponsors or so on.
What about even doing like a donation based, like pay what you can, something like that?
That's a very good concept actually, because last time when I was like me being the lead organizer, I had to talk with my team to figure out what could be the price bracket without like putting a lot of pressure on us in collecting the sponsorship, and on the other hand not to sacrifice the WordCamp like experience overall. So so like we thought about it, but the problem is like like the whole mechanism that we have on the WordPress site that won't support. That's one thing, and probably it would it would be a good option because then anyone can actually go ahead and attend it. So that could be an good option. Whereas if you take an option, might be uh, it might also have problem if you have a very strict budget, and for example everyone is putting up less than what we have expected. So in that case we might not be able to cover up the sponsorship amount, like total cost of the event.
Mhm.
So in that case it might be tricky.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you got less sponsorship money, I assume, this year than you did in previous. And
Yeah, we
did
had one had a payment or a cost freeze at their company. So they're a slightly smaller hosting company that typically sponsors us every year, and they just canceled all sponsorship for the remainder of 2020. I don't know if it was like indiscriminately because I didn't press them on it. I just kind of was like, okay, we have other things to worry about.
Yeah, what can you do, right?
Yeah, and with pivoting, obviously, like it became harder to focus on begging people for money. And then two of them we had moved down a tier, so that was why it was significantly less than previous years.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody know whether or not those sponsors that are sort of global level sponsors, like our GoDaddies and all that of the world, if they committed for this year to that money, is Central helping them rearrange that? Or are they stepping them down? Like, has Central itself reorganized how that works? Like, normally we have that kind of money coming in, but I'm curious about what that structure looks like. Courtney,
instead of sponsoring an event, maybe you think are you suggesting something like them giving to the WordPress Foundation and the WordPress Foundation distributing among the events?
No, usually that's exactly what happens. Is people like GoDaddy and SiteGround and all those big corporations give that money directly to Central every year. And then there's a pool that sort of comes from that. But then our responsibility as local organizers is to go out into the community and pull that local sponsorship. So there's sort of that global level versus, and so on. But Courtney, you look like you had an answer.
Yeah, actually, I am working on pivoting the global sponsorship program right now. So I'm working directly with the global sponsors on what that's going to look like. So right now, I think it's going to be at least a couple of weeks, probably starting on July 1st, that we'll have a new online sponsorship program for the globals. And we'll be distributing that to all current organizers.
Okay.
So
yeah, like I said, I figured there may not be something exactly in place, but I was curious whether there was or not.
Yeah, there is.
That
so
helps.
The money that they paid at the beginning of the year already is going to apply to this new program, and it's still going to support every single WordCamp.
Wonderful, thank you. That's a great answer.
You're welcome.
I'll look forward to it. And July 1st is Canada Day, so it's perfect.
Oh, nice. So I'm aiming for that. We're hoping to have it launched by then.
Yeah, okay. That'd be great. Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Could this centralization work for, someone suggested a pay what you can ticket, maybe instead of each person paying what they can for one event, being like, hey, you want to help fund for WordCamps around the world? I don't know if
That's a really good idea. We don't have anything set up right now to benefit specifically WordCamps, but there is always a donation page open on the WordPress Foundation website to donate, but that doesn't specifically go to WordCamps. It goes towards like operations and all sorts of stuff under the Foundation's umbrella.
I learned so much.
I have one point on.
Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
Can I speak?
I think that better to give 5 euro or dollars to exact ticket and done with it, because if you are asking for, if someone asked you for some kind of donation, you're starting to think how much, and it's getting difficulty, and it's stuck in your brain, and you can edit with no donation at all. It's much simpler to give some kind of 5 or 10, and it isn't much. And it isn't much even from Russian people. I mean, I live in second capital, so I cannot talk for all country, but it isn't much even here, so it's much easier to ask a small amount from each, I think.
To have a set amount for each person.
Yeah. And you can also have micro donations and some kind of highlighted these people later a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The same like it was before.
Can I add something?
Yeah, Dhruv, carry on.
Yeah. So in this, we can add a free ticket or micro sponsorship or make a donation, because I have one scenario on that. So if I pay for this ticket and after 2 months or 1 month, I found all session on WordPress TV, then I say like, what?
But that's what happens even now, though.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah, I get what you're
Like,
saying. That does
the
happen
difference
in
is
real
that
life.
you get to
but-
interact with it. Sorry, I was going to say it's the difference is that you get to interact with it now, and you may get a question answered or whatever. You're not getting a recording later. I think that's kind of expected.
Yeah. Now I want to add two things. First, we had a situation where one of the sponsor was not willing to or was not able to afford any of the sponsorship package. Like one becomes very low for them, where one have very high for them, and they wanted something in between. Since we already published the sponsorship package and everything, we cannot make custom for them. So what we ask them is that like this is a specific cost of one item where which would be something in and around your sponsorship amount that you're looking for. So you can do that. You can be an in-kind sponsor. So that is one thing we can do. And another thing that Dhruv mentioned about WPTV, since I work with WPTV, I can tell you the number of people who are actually listening to an online or offline, even whatever it is, we don't get a fraction of that number in terms of WPTV views. Like if a brilliant session is happening on WordCamp and it's been shared, then people actually wait that when the video will be uploaded in WPTV. But many a time what happen is like even there is a brilliant session, but after the event hardly people actually go ahead and do it. Very small amount of people actually watch it on WPTV, unless and until the talk created a buzz or the talk was like referred in some time. So that is one interesting thing. Another thing is like if you attend a session live, you can probably have a Q&A with the organizer, with the speaker, and sometime on the other hand you have the small networking place. I think that needs to be more improvised and improved, but again you get the chance to do the networking or talk with people to some extent. So that is not possible if you watch the video on WPTV.
So actually going back to local information that you had mentioned before, Rahul, would it be reasonable to have a chat area that's specifically for local chat? So if we had the Rochester room for people from Rochester to go into, and then had another chat area that was US or Northeast or South America or Europe. And I realize, some of those are really big boxes, but does that make sense?
In that case, you will have let's assume that WordCamp Europe situation.
Right.
Then we will have big box for Europe, US, India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan.
Right.
And when it comes to other smaller country, like a lot of African countries, because during the networking session, I spoke with one person from Nigeria, one person from Ghana. So there would be more or less like single person in the chat, or maybe 2-3 people.
Right.
And on the other hand, if you restrict people based on the location, so might be people, like, to be very honest, if you put a restriction like, only for US people, probably I will stop attending that camp altogether. I
Right.
won't, because that's kind of like, discrimination.
Right.
Another
think-
way that we can think about is like maybe, theme group, plugin group, service group, marketing group, blogger group. That could have
Right.
been much more, inclusive.
That's
I
true.
think there's
Yeah,
another.
and I wouldn't.
Oh,
I
sorry,
wouldn't put
Tyler.
any restrictions on you can't get in or you can't or not, but just have a, hey, if you want to network
The focus.
local, here you go. If you
Yeah.
want to network nationwide, you can do that too.
I think there's another way to accomplish what you're describing, Trevor. You could probably just make sure your PR or social media person is actively posting messages like country check-in, reply emoji with your country flag, and kind of like mimic that same experience, but in a way that's not so like exclusive.
Okay.
Or doing posts like thread a reply if you're from wherever, like the local place, thread a reply if you're from Rochester. And then you have people post and replies and they can chat and exchange information and stuff. There's probably just more like creative ways to do that same thing, but in a way that doesn't seem exclusive.
Okay.
You sort of saw that
Good
with
idea.
the Slack that we used for this year's camp, where people basically were talking on the Kent channel and our general channel. But I think there you can, if you wanted to create sort of discussion rooms, you can create a channel, and basically people can join if they want. They're basically going to talk about those topics there, and then if they won't, they can leave. Also, going back to the video, the only thing is not every WordCamp is going to have video. Perfect case is for in-person camps, Kent, the last 2 years. Prior to this one, we didn't have video because we didn't have someone to post-process it. So necessarily buying a ticket does not guarantee there's going to be a video on WordPress TV. But I also think that now we're seeing the feedback coming back from the online camps is that I don't think it's things that either or. WP Campus that I went to, the very first one, what they did is they actually streamed it at part of the camp, so you actually were in person there, but then you could buy just a streaming ticket, so that allowed people that couldn't make it there to actually see it, and then basically the videos were then posted online. Also, I think for WordCamps in general, I think the online sphere also opens it up for not just local, but actually looking more towards regions. Like I mentioned sort of on our meetup on Monday, Ohio typically has 4 WordCamps, or at least it used to. Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, and then Kent. This year, for example, it's only going to be Kent. Columbus is having trouble getting organizers together. So I think basically having the online ability there, we can actually start reaching out further with terms of organizer team and do like a WordCamp. I think she had to mention WordCamp Canada or WordCamp, you just want to go regional like WordCamp Ohio. And then all of a sudden we can basically put resources into these one bigger events and not just basically just local ones. Because I think what we're seeing in the online is that people are interested in learning and interested in interacting and using online, and it's easier for them to access it.
I have a couple of thoughts. So before going to the money issue, if we think about the online or in-person, what I've seen in the WordCamps that I've attended in person is that not many people are networking. I mean, it's just the group of the organizers and some other groups, like let's say 20, 30 people, no more than that. The rest are just attending the talks, going for lunch. Maybe you see a couple of people talking, that's it. I don't know what is the reason for seeing so many people online trying to get engaged with others, which is pretty cool. Maybe because you have more time, maybe because you can focus, maybe because a lot of people are like introverted or shy, and being online makes it easier for everyone, no matter what. The problem is that you cannot go that deep as you can do it in person, right? So that is the first. The second one might be about that thing about the videos. Even if we record everything and there is a repository, I'm not going there to check the videos because there are tons. So it will take me, it's like Netflix. It will take me forever to figure out which one I will want to watch. So that is the advantage of the, you know, the WordCamps, that attending a WordCamp. But the thing is that if I attend one online, I mean, in person is not expensive. It's like, I don't know how much is in Ohio or other places. Here in DC is just $40, for which I heard is kind of the same, 40, 50. It's inexpensive. It's not expensive at all. But online, the thing is that if it is free, I don't know how many people who were registered were actually attending the WordCamp. And I'm pretty sure that it was not a big portion of them. And it's just like, there are so many things online, and it's just about, or WordPress is about everything right now, like events every single day at every single time of the day. So why I'm going to be committed or engaged with the WordCamp, right? If you put those things together, probably the challenge from now on is how to get people engaged and how to get people here. I mean, what is the extra value that I'm going to get the next time that I attend a WordCamp online? Watching the videos? No, I can go and watch in the, you know, from the repository. Networking? Well, it's cool that I can talk to people, you know, 10, 20 people from around the world, but it's not going to be that deep. Now, it's cool that question, Q&A session after the talks, but it means that I'm going to miss the next talk. Yeah. So I don't know if there is a way to create an environment that can solve those little like challenges or needs or for those groups of people. And in that case, you can easily charge. You know? Or for example, it's something that I cannot get right now, and it will give you the right to charge. Like if you send me, for example, if I have access to the presentations, to the slides from every single person, it's going to be super easy for me to attend every single talk. So I don't have to take much notes. I know what they are going to talk about. I know where they are going with every single piece, and it's going to be much more effective if I want to learn something, and probably prepare for you know, asking questions or stuff like that. And one thing that caught my attention was the price, because I think you mentioned like around $6,000, that it was the Blaze invoice, right? I don't know if you guys have to pay for that, or is the WordCamp Central or someone else is paying for that. The WordCamp in Spain, no, I know that you guys were using a specialized company, because we saw the behind the scenes stuff, and they have all the equipment, all the technicians. I mean, like, it was great. But for example, in Spain, they just use an application that was like $47, $49. They bought 2 accounts, so it was $100. That was the entire cost of the WordCamp.
Right, but did that guarantee accessibility with buying whatever they bought for $50?
You can get like a server for someone else, like for a, I mean, you don't have to pay that much, or actually leveraging the sponsors. I mean, it's SiteGround, it's Bluehost, it's got, I mean, there might be tons of companies. So instead of giving money, just provide the, you know, hosting or the bandwidth that I will need for 2 days or something like that. But there is a huge difference between $6,000 and just $100.
Right.
And even if you have to pay for hosting or anything, it's going to be like $500 or so.
I meant the accessibility part, like someone, they're paying someone to actually transcribe in real time. That's a lot of the cost, is like making these WordCamps accessible for everybody. That's where the higher cost is, and guaranteeing that's why that's more expensive, is because we're not just doing Crowdcast or that application, because Crowdcast is great, but it's not fully accessible. So we have to really make sure that we're offering all of those services so that we're accessible to everyone.
Here in Brazil, here in Brazil, I think, I'm not sure because I just joined the organization, but I think the company is that we're thinking about is offering a sign language interpreter, like in real time in the corner of the videos. So that's also a cost that the company, you know, that we have.
No, I've seen.
I think there will be. No problem, no problem. I think there will be typing like text, but I think there will also be a sign language interpreter.
Yeah, I've seen people presenting, not even in conferences, just like a webinar or something like that, which is live. And there are, I don't know, actually I've seen people using PowerPoint, and PowerPoint basically do the, what do you call that, closed caption, transcript, like in real time. So there might be application, and I'm pretty sure that if I go to WordPress and try to find plugins for that, I will find them. So for sure, there are some very cheap applications or affordable that can do that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like $6,000. If I were part of the organizing team, I will just go crazy. Yeah,
Let's all
trying
just
to
start a new
figure out how to raise
company.
that money.
We're gonna recruit everyone in this room. We're gonna have our own company that does this for super cheap. It's gonna be great.
So what I was thinking about
where somebody can say, I'm preparing as a speaker, let's say for an online talk. Here are the things that you can do to make your organizer's life easier, right? Like if you say that it's available in PowerPoint, how many people know that? So why don't we do something where it says, here's the things that you're going to need to know as a speaker at some of these camps and help the organizers as well. So if the organizers have ways, like you say, of things like PowerPoint and whatnot. So who's having their next meetup and who wants to host me do it? Because I will find out.
Well, and there's a really great, I mean, WordCamp Central has some great speaker trainings that are out there that I think that we could utilize that. We actually put it out like when we're it's on our website. We have a link to it to that kind of stuff. So
I think
and I bet you they're adding more
stuff, isn't it?
What's that?
It's mostly about diversity training and stuff. Do they actually have like online versions?
Well, that's
like,
what I was like let's find out if there is additional stuff now for the online, like gearing towards the online that we can utilize, that we can promote to help people with all of those kinds of things. I love, like, it's great that we're talking about that, and because we want to make it easy for people.
If there isn't one, I'll come up with one. I'll do a post on it. I'll find out.
Yeah. Well, someone even, I mean, we've been talking about asking speakers to send us a video of this talk, and then while the talk is running, the speaker can actually answer questions live and be in the room, but their session is pre-recorded.
I think that's what most of Northeast Ohio's was, right? Most of them were recorded, weren't they?
Some of them were. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but WordPress 101 was a perfect example. They were pre-recorded, and Joe Querin, who actually did the 101 sessions, was on the chat and was answering questions throughout.
That's really cool. And I think that, there's lots of different ways to go about it.
Just to get it out there is a cost difference with doing a pre-recorded versus live. So make sure you know that going into when you talk with Blaze.
Pre-recorded is cheaper.
Okay.
Is live more expensive, or is it the other way around?
I thought the pre-recorded was more expensive, right, David?
I'd have to check that.
That would be a really good thing to know.
Yeah, it's something to
pre-recorded.
keep in mind when you do talk to Blaze.
You can make subtitles beforehand with volunteers' help, and it will be much more cheaper. It will be completely free if volunteers succeeded. And sorry, I wanted to say something.
So I'll use the time for you to remember. I'll say something in the meantime. Something I thought while Ricardo was talking about, how do we find a way for people to network during the event? Because as an introvert, I also don't like being in person and talking to strangers. And someone mentioned earlier maybe having rooms by area of work, right? Like marketing, coding, because I'm not a coder, and sometimes I look around and I feel like everybody is a coder but me in the WordPress community, which I know is not true. But maybe I really like the idea of having spaces per section, which could be used at the end of the day to look in this area of marketing. we've categorized these talks. They were marketing talks, so all the talkers, the speakers will be in this area. And I think that separating people by area of work could help with the networking, could help people add each other on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going after the talks. But something, I don't know if it's possible for people to get a license, something like a license key, because you can have a password for a Zoom meeting, but passwords can be passed on to people. Like I could give my password to someone else. But if you have individual passwords, wouldn't that be a way to make charging possible? If you have to put your password to get into a room, it's a single-use password. Then people would have to pay to get their own password. Wouldn't that be a way to charge for tickets?
But I think it goes back to exactly what Ricardo was saying, though, is that if we, unless you offer something of value, are they going to actually have, you know, is there going to be a need for those tickets and things like that, right? So yeah. I think it may come down to each individual WordCamp, because if they're, depending on, you know, what Courtney was saying as well about the new structures, if the camp can be entirely funded just by the global stuff, great. I'll be the first one to say that, yeah, I just started my business. I can't afford to go global. There's no way. But you know what? If I'm going to a WordCamp or I'm looking at a WordCamp nearby, I could probably give $100 towards that camp. But I think
I thought about
without giving them sort of that exclusive, like the exclusivity or whatever, you know, maybe we'll send you stickers if you pay the $10 or I don't know. But
yeah, I thought the exclusivity would be,
it's something over and above what we need.
Yes, I thought the exclusivity would be the networking rooms. Would be that the networking rooms would only be accessible through a single person password. That's what I thought could be exclusive, but I don't know if it's enough for people to want to pay.
I can tell you right now, after having done the number of WordCamps that I do, the one thing I am missing is the ability to go and talk to other people. Just like we were talking about earlier, as far as regions go, I wouldn't want to limit those rooms, especially if there's people who need help. Like the one thing that we did with the Slack team on the Northeast Ohio one is that when somebody came in and said, hey, I need help with something here, I'm looking at my screen and I'm not seeing anything. One thing I did at one point is I just fired up Zoom. I said, here's a Zoom room. Anybody who wants to can come in at any time. I had the pleasure of meeting Olga for the very first time, you know, so we just networked. But the idea is that I was there available to help anybody. And I think if we start limiting the networking rooms, that is, to me, has always been a big pet peeve of mine, where somebody will say, oh, I'm sponsoring a dinner, but I'm only inviting certain people at various WordCamps. And it annoyed the heck out of me, because to me, the whole point is to get people together and not cause that sort of border between people. Like, I think offering them, like, we'll send you stickers for $10 is probably a little bit of a better choice rather than limiting their access.
Yeah, it's because here in Brazil, sending things is so expensive that it wouldn't be feasible. But I see that's because I don't even consider physical things because of the price. But you're right. The whole point of the community is networking globally. Putting any sort of barrier there would suck. Yes, that's true.
I remember what I was wanting to say about AI. AI, my God, artificial intellect. So Abertacor shows that next year it will be no problem to have automatic subtitles at all. But even now we can possibly find some kind of company which will be, with a little help from organizers and speakers, provide real-time subtitles with good quality. Like you can teach this machine to understand current speaker, and he will capture his talk very well. She or he just needs to make example of his speech or her speech, and it will be quite good.
See, the one thing they did at San Antonio, Texas, was that they had basically Zoom rooms after every talk, right? They used Crowdcast, fine, whether you use Zoom, Crowd, whatever the thing is. But after the talk was over, that speaker was then moved over to a Zoom room dedicated to that track, whether it was marketing, much like Ricardo was suggesting. And then for the next 15 minutes between the talks, that speaker was available to answer questions for whomever, right? Not just in a Slack team, which is fine. It also depends on budgets and all that other fun stuff, right? Something I heard also is that the problem with that is that then the people that are attending aren't going to the Zoom rooms for the sponsors. So that, I think, is something we have to also weigh, is that if they're paying for those Zoom rooms to be operating and their staff is there, is operating a Zoom room for people to get help on something with the speaker, you know, deterring people from going to the sponsors. I don't know. Personally, I networked better at that camp than any other, because whether I was asking questions of the speaker or not was irrelevant. I just jumped in to see who was there, to talk to people, to network and see if I could help as well, right? So I think that to me was a very helpful thing, especially if you're going to be offering help. If it's going to be a happiness bar, you've got to have the ability to share screens and things like that, because we can't do it in person right now. So that's going to be certainly, when we're looking at organizing, that's definitely one thing I really want to do. If we have an account where we can do breakout rooms, fine. Everybody jumps into the help desk one and then go, okay, you're going to help that person, off you go. This is going to be great. To me, that would be the absolute ideal. Whether it's possible or not, I don't know. But that ability to even just talk to somebody and get those problems solved, regardless of where location, could definitely be a big plus. That would just be me.
Megan, did you have a lot of people in the sponsor rooms?
I have not done a debrief with Bree or Adam. I probably should do that. That's a good idea.
I think at any given time,
but I talked to them. I popped in a couple times on Saturday, our day one. I didn't pop in on the second day, but I did get a message from Bree with Bluehost that day two really fizzled out, sponsor booth wise. I know one thing, like sponsors are like my favorite realm in the WordCamp world, and I've got like ideas on how to make those more engaging. Obviously, like with sponsors, you can't have them do like a presentation. They can't have like a sponsored presentation or a sponsored talk, so you're a little more limited in how you can like fit them into the schedule without fitting them into the schedule. But some alternative ways to increase engagement would be having them have scheduled programming during their hours. I heard in a different industry, they were doing cooking class with like so-and-so from X company. So doing like little activities with them. I know Bluehost for Santa Clarita did a Yappy hour where you were supposed to bring your pets and show your pets on camera, and that was really cute. Another idea would be to do some type of bingo card or sponsor passport. If you are a camp that's going to have more sponsors, we only had 2 that were using their rooms and only 4 that were in that tier in the first place. It was our gold level. So if you have more, you could do like a passport or something, kind of treat it like a trade show. But obviously, if you have less, like you want to make sure they have something ready to do during that time to make it interesting, and have it not just be about getting a coupon for logging in their room or something that's, you know, kind of meaningless.
I want to add one thing. Yeah. Actually, what I have noticed, like taking the scenario of both WordCamp Kent as well as WordCamp Europe, if you talk about the sponsor room, there was much more thing that the sponsors could have done to make things more interesting. Now the point is, when there are a talk going on, and a lot of people since joining all across the globe. For many people, attending the talk is the major reason why they are, signing up for that WordCamp. So they, could have done something more interesting. Even certain cases where I found that, like the sponsors were not allowing you to get inside the room. Like a person will wait for 30 seconds, but he or she will not wait for a minute or two or maybe 5 minutes to get into the sponsor. So that's something, honestly I personally experienced with one of the sponsor, couple of sponsor actually, where I try to get in touch with them because I use their product, and also to just to say hi for, supporting the overall cause. But the thing is, if you are not available, then people will, get back to their work, or they will go back to the talk. That's one thing. And understanding this whole online situation, like regarding the software or whatever services we are using, first and foremost, since this is an event, we need to make sure that it goes without any hiccups. Like since it happens, like even in offline or physical WordCamps, sorry, we will have hiccups, so we can't avoid that. But to be very honest, I think the whole world is not ready to, drastically shift. So there will be trial and error, there will be problem, we will learn from that. But again, taking, because I personally attended both the WordCamps, and what I think that, I think this is the best way that could have been done. Like if we start pinpointing things, look into greater depth, obviously there would be things that will come up. But again, we need to understand that this is the first time that we are actually doing it online and hosting like 1,000 people at a time, whether they turn up or not. But from the organizer's perspective, we need to be aware and we need to be prepared. So that's a major thing.
From an organizer
I have
standpoint, oh, go ahead.
I have two questions for organizer. So which one is easy to organize and which one is fun to organize?
Easy and fun. I mean, those are unique. Um, in some ways, it's more. I found it. I was not gonna say more fun, but fun doing the online version because it's the first one ever that we did, and also the fact you don't have to worry about venue and a lot of the sort of the smaller details you do in person one. I'm sure Megan would agree with that. So there is that. That does make it, a little bit on the easier side, just because you don't have that. But at the same time, is you sort of like, I think everybody's pretty much mentioned it at one point, is that person-to-person contact or seeing the people that come to every WordCamp. You miss that by doing the online side, because like WordCamp Kent is a perfect example. We sort of have a family reunion sort of feel to our campuses in a small town. So yeah, so basically, I guess that's how I would answer the question. But to take one step back in terms of the sponsor boost, I did speak to both sponsors on day one. They said they did have more traffic than they did for Santa Clarita, which was the camp before us. But a lot of that was because of the fact that we went out of our way to make sure we promoted it after every session, the beginning of every session. I think that's a big thing for organizers of camps, the online ones, is that you have to sort of promote it and try to drive the audience that way. Because like Raul said, people are there just for the sessions, so you sort of have to remind them the sponsor booths are there.
Yeah, they can't just stop people in the hall anymore, which is sad. It would be cool if they could just like infiltrate your computer and just be like, hey, you want to talk to Bluehost? I would love that. We just need to invent something for that.
Yeah, they can't give away a TV anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're only talking to Bluehost to get a free TV, you're not doing it right in the first place.
I won the one from Toronto in 2017, so I can't.
But you probably talked to them as people, which they probably appreciated. So congrats on the win, and also for talking to them like they're humans, like the rest of us.
But in terms of your sponsors, also like David Bissett for Miami, for his game show, when they have WordCamp Miami, they actually have the sponsors sponsor actually debut game show where they're actually competing against one another. So you sort of have that interaction after the day one of the camp. So you actually get to see more from the sponsors. So that's another way of interacting with them, is trying to promote them that way. I think the biggest thing is just sort of trying to increase the interaction in terms of more access to them. I think would be a huge step forward. and stuff. I really, to me, in terms of difference between in-person, online, sponsor-wise, is day 2 is always going to have a drop-off if you have a 2-day camp, because a lot of the cases, most sponsors don't come on day 2, unless they have a table, they want to have someone there. Normally day 1 they're there to promote, that's where majority of the attendees are there, and they'll normally do a giveaway at the end of day 1, and then by then they'll clean everything up, and then only your global sponsors will be there on day 2.
They
Or
leave,
local
they
sponsors.
leave all their
The
swag with you
reason that
too.
they did that though is because they would always have to travel.
Mhm.
Like I had to miss an entire second day of LA because I had to fly out first thing in the morning. Right. So that's what I'm wondering. And I wanted to ask you about the stats. Usually the stats fall on Sunday because there's been an after party the night before, number one, and an after party, and then an after party, and sometimes an after party. And then, you know, people have to travel. Right. But here, that wasn't the case. So I was really surprised actually to see the numbers drop as high as they were. I'd love to find out why though.
It might also have to do with a couple things. So it was mostly beginner tracks that we had on the second day. We had like some developer tracks, but they were kind of like light developer tracks with the exception of the REST API talk that Craig West did. But it was the 101 track, so there might have just been more people, a different group of people logging in for that. And it could have just been like a lesser group because the 101 track took like the whole track of one day. And another thing might be day of the week. It was a Sunday, and a lot of people reserve that day for family or for religion. So we've typically seen a drop off for Sunday, and when we talk to people, it's usually because it's Sunday, which is kind of a bummer, but.
It'd be interesting to see if we can get contact WordCamp Europe, because the fact that now they had a 3-day conference, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just to see if they had the same drop off on Saturday, in terms of between Friday and Saturday, just because different days of the week. And also they have a bigger audience, so I think we'll be able to get more statistics because of that.
But I would also want to see that versus the year before
First
too.
day was a contributor day. It was
Thursday,
like
Thursday
500 people.
Day. Yeah.
Actually, you know, contributor day again plays a very important role when you think about, you know, dragging people to the main event. Because what I have personally seen is like, you know, like, you know, people who actually was interacting on contributor day, they actually end up interacting because couple of the name was familiar to me, you know, and they were actually engaging on the chat, you know, which might be like coincident, but maybe, you know, having a contributor day can actually ease out that, you know, or create a comfort zone actually, because we see a lot of you know, people who are joining for the first time, and for them like an event means not only just attend the talks, but when you have a contributor day, in that case, you know, they exactly know how to get involved. And if a person get involved, they somehow have that, you know, attachment, or somehow, you know, have that you know, that human feeling, because in contributor day you mostly will talk in one to one. Like for Europe, what I have seen, like, you know, a lot of people actually turned up, and you know, they were interacting. Maybe they were hopping channels, but they did interact with people. And we have seen, like, you know, post on day 1 and day 2 of the talks on like a main WordCamp time, that time people were actually engaging on Twitter, people were engaging on the YouTube chat, and there were even like cases where, you know, they turn up, hey, I think I saw you on contributor day. Hey, I think did we meet on contributor day? So there was that conversation thing, you know, going on. So that could be a good, you know, value addition.
Yeah. So I like to people face to face when I like chat with them on Twitter or somewhere else in WordCamp.
Now we are talking almost face to face. Actually, face to face. It's not bad, actually.
Yeah, we have to get the same group and everything.
It's, you know, it's middle of night here.
We need a
It's almost
reunion.
morning
That's
over
what we
here.
need.
Almost 5
Yeah, Rahul.
a.m.
I
Yeah.
have no idea how you stand up, Rahul.
Hi, you have to send me the chai, damn it. Okay, how can we learn how to do this through Zoom? Because I need some of that chai right now.
Yeah.
I have chai here in Adrian, Michigan.
I would suggest come visit India. I will gift each and everyone the best quality chai as per your taste, because people have different taste, and also chai like tea also have an health benefit associated with your lifestyle. So there are different tea for different people. So since I know most of you now very well, so probably I would be able to pick up the right tea based on your lifestyle and based on your taste. Not sure about the taste, but on based on the lifestyle, I can definitely recommend some of the teas.
So we should do this for our next meetup.
Yeah.
You can tell everyone what
Like,
tea they
I'm
are.
most-
Best chai recipe.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm very specific with tea and coffee. Like we have, I think 6 or 7 kind of coffee and tea at any given point of time. And there are only 3 people living in the house and 6 cats. So, and we
Oh
have
my
like
gosh.
12 types of tea and coffee if you put them together.
Sounds like a dream.
It's a zoo, it's a kind of like a zoo in my house.
about meetups, I saw a lot of get together virtual in India to watch something else.
Sorry?
Rahul.
Yeah,
Like a watch
WP
party.
KotchCon.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah,
What is it?
Yeah.
It's some kind of
yeah.
way to interact in your own local community, even if you don't have event organized by yourself.
Actually, the thing is like what I have seen in Indian community is like we have official meetups regularly, but apart from that, we have that chit chat kind of meetups where we basically talk about everything, and there is no restriction. We generally don't record the session, and we just be ourselves, and that's it. It actually because I can tell you at any given point, recent experience, I think just a couple of days before WordCamp Kent, we have a huge cyclone over here. Like that literally, messed up like 6 or 7 days of complete blackout, similar situations. So I received more than 200 messages on social media, then Twitter, like accumulative like 20, like 2000 200 people reached to me. And if I take the statistic out, I can tell you 95% of the people are from the WordPress community. And maybe more than 50% of the people whom I never met before, like never met in person. So this is a response that you get, like, how does it really matter a person sitting in US or UK or maybe any other part of the world, cares so much that they tends to, give you a call 8 times, 9 times just to check out how you are doing. So that's something that melt anyone's heart. Like so many people reached out just to say, how are you doing today, do you need any help? So how are you coping up with it? So my Slack, my Twitter, Facebook DMs, all was like full of comments. The moment I get the internet back, I was just replying each and every one of them, and it took me 2.5 days. So from where you can get this kind of thing, and from where, like, this is all genuine thing, like this is something you cannot control. Like even if you spend millions of dollar, you wouldn't get that kind of love or respect or that kind of careness anywhere else. So that pinpoints that what this community is all about. Like I was just like, I couldn't believe that so many people messaged me, and even some of them just like in some channels or somewhere, like someone mentioned that we had some issues and because of that I won't be available, something like that. And even people whom I never chat, never talk with, they even DM'd me, Rahul, I know you don't know me, but how are you, buddy? Is everything okay? Even I remember there was one person, I won't take a name, he's quite popular, so he even said like, is your house okay, is everything okay, we can do a fundraiser for you. I said no, everything is fine, we are absolutely okay, just I'm completely out of internet and electricity. but I have a house, I have food, so don't worry. So this kind of thing, maybe, motivates you to, get more involved. And this is something that I will never forget, that so many people actually, get in touch, they care about my well-being, and you can't find this anywhere. Like calling you so many times just to make sure that, where are you, what's going on, and what's the situation. So this is like, something cannot be described.
I've seen pretty much everyone like nodding, and I think that that is a very similar conversation that we have like a week ago for
Oh yeah,
the party, like
you
Megan.
keep,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
we
So
keep on meeting so much, so things get,
yeah, exactly.
unless and until I don't have a new story to tell, it will keep on repeating. And I personally love sharing the story, and I think this is worth sharing as well, like how it
So
works.
that made me wonder what would be the purpose in the future for the WordCamps, because I kept thinking the same thing. I mean, I didn't even know that there were so many WordCamps. Now that everything is online and I'm in my computer, I was able to find the WordCamp Central. All of you know about it. I don't. And I guarantee you that most of the attendees are like me, so we don't know much. That's why we go to the camps, right?
Right.
So now there are tons. I mean, and I guarantee you in 3 or 4 months, we will see one every other week. So why I'm going to come back to the Ohio one next year? Or why I'm going to the Rochester, if from now, I mean, from now to that point, I will have the chance to go to another 10. So from the organizer's point of view, I think that that might be a challenge. As what can we offer? Because very soon these coolest things that we have seen lately are going to be super normal, and there won't be anything like, wow, that's no. I mean, right now it's cool, like what I saw. I mean, and I think that I compliment like Megan and I'm pretty much Amanda, everyone for the event. But after I see 10 more events like that, not from you, from other people, it's going to be normal. So the challenge is how can we do something like different and special? And what I hear is community and networking and rooms and maybe changing the format. I don't know.
Well, and this is one of the conversations that I was having in the Canada Slack team.
But why in Canada? Why not here in the United States? We need that. So.
Well, but here's the thing. As much as we love our neighbors to the south, Canada still has to have its own identity, right? Just like each community needs its own identity. So, what I was proposing to even the Canada team is, look, we don't want our members, both from a camp and a meetup standpoint, to suffer overload, just like you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I go to that meetup, my own local meetup, if I don't like that talk, I'll go to the other one, right? Or why would I go to that camp versus that camp? So I said to my fellow members, listen, why don't we just do one camp? We can all pour our efforts into that, pool our efforts into one camp. And, there was some good talk, let's just say, over, well, what about our community versus your community in this thing? Like, are we trying to overtake WordCamp US? I go, no, guys, I'm certainly not trying to overtake WordCamp US, but what I'm talking about doing here is to just simply not overload everybody's channels, right? We have we have 2 meetups in Toronto, in Brampton, in Durham. I know this means nothing to you guys, but think about it this way. It takes me about an hour and a half to go from here to Durham, and the other way is Niagara. There are 6 meetups in that little region. So and we've had this where Hamilton's had one on Thursday night, and Durham's had one on Wednesday night. So they're literally back to back. It's tiresome, both for the organizers as well as the attendees. So the suggestion that I had made, at least in that sense, is, look, can we, at least for the meetups, maybe start grouping, or have, one community be responsible one month and the next community be responsible the next. Then we don't burn out our organizers. We don't burn out our members, like the people attending. And if we do one WordCamp Canada, again, I'm purely talking out of my mouth ideas, nothing confirmed, okay? Because I know I'm going to get in trouble for this. But the idea is that also sponsors. We do not then have to go to our sponsors 6 times over, and then they can reach a larger community because we are speaking as one voice. And everyone's like, well, are we going to do this every year? I went, no, guys, we are just doing this at least in the interim, right? We have 2 provinces in the middle that don't have a voice. So I don't remember if it was Dhruv or Rahul was saying that we have the opportunity to get those people that don't have their own community. There has been one WordCamp Winnipeg. To give you an idea, that takes me 2 days to drive to. And that is the next camp to the west from us, right? So it gives us that opportunity, but by calling it WordCamp Canada, it helps invite them in as well, right? So again, purely ideas, but it doesn't run out our sponsors. It gives us an opportunity to have less camps with more drive, if you will, probably more organizers that aren't going to get burnt out, and the people attending are less yes, more volunteers, exactly, and less likely that you're going to have people going, oh, there's a camp this weekend, there's a camp next weekend, a camp there, right? And ours would more than likely be bilingual, right? We've got an entire community of French-speaking people. Montreal, when they have their camps, 50% of their talks are in French.
Oh.
Well, yeah, for us it's French, but I'm saying we have that ability now, right? So anyway, I know I've gone on, but the idea was to sort of, to address exactly what you're talking about, Ricardo, is that burnout from everybody. Too many Zoom calls, too many meetups, too many, and everybody doing different things and not talking to one another. Sorry, am I running for Prime Minister now? Just checking.
You can. We will vote you.
Prime Minister of the Canadian community, of the Canadian WordPress Prime Minister. It's a thing now. We invented it.
Great.
Vote for Shanta.
May I finish my sentence?
What?
No. No. When I was thinking about the format, are you guys familiar with open spaces, for example, or not at all? No. Yes.
Sorry?
No.
Can you say again?
So let me tell you in a couple of minutes, because I think that brings a lot of things that Shanta has said, and Rahul, and even Olga. So, well, I was telling you, I'm not in the WordPress world. I'm in the agile space, like type of boring project management stuff. And one of the coolest events that we have, it is called Open Space. And we use it for agile agile coach camps. So basically, you get there in the morning, like 100 or 150 people. If you want to pitch a topic or an idea or something, or just a conversation topic, you have 30, 40, 45 seconds, like 50, 60 people doing that in a row, and you place your thing on a wall, like in a schedule, in a grid, right? There are different rooms, can be 6 rooms, 8 rooms, or 10 rooms, all of them available. So you choose one and one time slot. And the entire day, basically, you can move from one room to another, just attending those little talks. Now, they are not real presentations. It's not that you are bringing slides or anything like that. It's just, I want to talk about ethics in WordPress because I saw a problem here, I saw a problem there, and it's a commonality. And I think that in the future, we have to address it somehow. But I don't know how. So it's just like bringing, who wants to talk about it? And for 1 hour, whoever wants to come, you are just going to talk about a topic. Then if you get tired of that, like after 5 minutes, you can move to another room or initiate another one or something like that. It's like 3 days in a row like that. That is only for coaches, meaning that the coaches are the people more like knowledgeable and with more experience. So I think this is kind of the, let's say, the most forward-thinking event for those type of people. So I don't know if in WordPress, because if I attend 5 or 6 WordCamps, I will start seeing the same topics. Even in the marketing track or the freelancer track or the, now I realize that now that we went in the Europe one, and I try to check all of the topics because they are very close to each other. So at some point it's going to be like even boring. So I don't know, maybe you can give it a try next time. So having a 2-day event normal, like as you're having, and maybe have day for something like an open space or like link coffee or something that basically is forming community, basically is forcing people to talk, and it's not just sitting down and watching a presentation, and actually is like creating new topics or being going deeper in the ones that people want to explore, I guess. Okay, if you don't like, okay, I'm leaving then.
Sorry.
I put my comments
Really great point.
I was typing.
I put my comments into the chat because I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, everyone's
You know,
afraid of
yeah.
talking over each other now. I was gonna say, I like unconferences. I think that's really cool. And we should start this discussion on the unconferences in the community events channel in the Make WordPress Slack, because I think a lot of people would want to talk about making that a reality. I only know of one like WordCamp unconference, but they didn't actually end up having it. But I have been wanting to attend one, so I think
I might be able to help, and I would love to. So
yeah.
if you think that you got that is useful, like that this
I have attended.
Okay, this coach
I
camp.
have attended. Sorry, sir.
No, that the coach camp. The next one is supposed to be an international one, because it was supposed to be in Florida. We have to cancel everything, but it's an international one. So probably 100 people out of 150 are coming from out of the North America actually. And since it is going to be online, what we are going to have is kind of I don't know if you can see something here. Oops. Like it's just Zoom. I mean, like you send the links, and those 8 or 10 rooms are just labeled like USA, Africa, Netherlands, Australia, or whatever. And you have the grid here, the press grid. So you choose. This is like a schedule, and you choose where you're gonna go, and you can move from one to another. And it's super simple. It's just you don't need a platform. You don't need to stream anything. People will be just talking and learning and sharing, I guess. So just if you hear about anyone doing something like that, I will be happy to help.
I love the idea, but here in Brazil, in the case of WordCamp São Paulo, they really don't. They really make. They really have to have the sign language interpreter. So the infrastructure would still be needed because of the sign language. But the idea is amazing. I'm writing all of it down to show them later. Thank you for your contribution.
Send you my bank account. It's just $100 of the advice.
All right, we are still able to keep discussing. I am gonna hit the end recording and go ahead and save this now because I'm a little worried because it's storming here and I don't want to lose the recording after we all had this good discussion. So I want to thank everyone so much for being here and for giving all these great ideas now, but you can still talk after this.
Okay.